Student loans are a common issue in the United States, with many college graduates facing significant debt upon graduation. However, the question arises as to whether people in other countries also have student loans. The United States is not the only country where college graduates face student loan debt. Countries such as Canada, Brazil, Chile, England, Sweden, and Australia all have student loan programs. So in this video, we are going to discuss: do people in other countries have student loans? Now, before we get into this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below saying I subscribed. I will try my best to reply to as many comments as possible. Student loans are actually quite common in other countries, and the list of countries where students take on debt to pay for college is diverse. Canada, Brazil, Chile, England, Sweden, and Australia all have student loan programs operated by the government, similar to the way that the federal government grants most student loans in the United States. Why are student loans common internationally? Many countries offer student loans for the same reasons that the United States uses them. They can help students come up with the money they need to cover tuition and living expenses. Of course, free college or government grants can do that too, but it is expensive for any government to pay for the full cost of college for everyone. Student loan policies across the globe. In both the United States and Canada, students can take out federal loans for both tuition and living expenses. In Sweden and Germany, students can only take out government loans for living expenses because tuition is free in those countries. And at the other end of the spectrum, England and Australia generally offer student loans only for tuition expenses. Students can't take out government loans for their living expenses. These are just some examples of student loan programs across the globe that can help us think about how we might improve our system. However, it's important to consider that tuition prices, the cost of living, and the average amount of debt students borrow vary dramatically from country to country. A resource from the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, created with collaboration from the Center for American Progress and the American Enterprise Institute. The U.S. isn't the only place in the world where students have to take on loans to go to college. Examining student debt by country can be very instructive, as some places are very creative when it comes to tuition and how they address paying back student loans. For instance, did you know that borrowers in Canada and England don't begin repaying their education debt until they're earning a substantial income? Or that Germany and Sweden don't charge college tuition in the first place? Let's review how the US compares to other countries when it comes to student loan debt, repayment processes, and college expenses. Here's a look at how the US compares to other countries when it comes to the number of students, cost of tuition, and the average student loan debt. The solutions to America's student loan debt problem, however, will need to keep in mind the pain points that are specific to our country. After all, the nations above all have much smaller populations than the US does. Countries that offer no or low tuition for a college degree. Finland, Germany, Iceland, Scotland, and Sweden are among the places that don't charge college tuition, though that often depends on whether you're a resident or an international student. But that doesn't mean student loans are obsolete there. Germans, for example, make debt available for students attending private universities. Swedes, meanwhile, still take out education debt for off-campus expenses. Still, lower costs generally equate to lower rates of borrowing. Even in places where there's an actual cost of attendance, like Italy and France, fees are relatively low, lessening the need for taking on debt. How America compares. There is no such blanket coverage for US students, but the Education Department does offer the federal Pell Grant program. When combined with state grants, as well as private and school-issued scholarships, a Pell Grant keeps fees low, at least for low-income students. Free college does exist in limited form, depending on where you aim to attend. New York, for example, became the first state to offer free in-state college options for families below a given income level. Plus, individual schools, including Harvard, are tuition-free for select students. Countries that tie school tuition costs to a student's projected earnings. Australia is often held in high regard internationally for its approach to loan repayment. But the country also employs a novel approach to pricing college in the first place. Student loans in Australia are less necessary because schools down under charge a tuition rate depending on the income students could expect to earn after completing their particular degrees. Some courses of study are also likelier than others to make students eligible for non-loan government subsidies. How America compares. Although not offered by the Department of Education, income share agreements, ISAs, are slowly gaining popularity. With such arrangements, students agree to pay a percentage of their future income in exchange for partial or full tuition funding. Purdue University in Indiana is among the schools offering ISAs to students. Unfortunately, however, not all careers are good fits for ISAs, and the model has drawn some criticism. Student debt during the COVID pandemic. While federal student loan payments were placed on pause during the COVID pandemic, the U.S. Department of Education is considering strategies like debt forgiveness in the amount of $10,000 per borrower, depending on their income. This may be a relief to many borrowers, as an April 2022 LendingTree study showed that 72% of borrowers aren't ready to pick their student loan payments back up. Many borrowers were economically impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and still have not financially recovered. In fact, 52% of those with student loans are putting that money toward basic needs, such as rent and groceries instead. Borrowing for college in the U.S. To access federal financial aid, college students need to fill out the free application for federal student aid. This can give them access to grants and loans that may make it possible for them to afford college. Between 2010 to 2011 and 2019 to 2020, college tuition in the U.S. rose 26% at public and private colleges. This has increased the need for students to access more financial aid to cover the costs of not just tuition, but room and board as well as other expenses. Student loan default is rare. In the United States, the number of borrowers in default rises every year, even if the default rate falls, because defaulted borrowers are unlikely to return their loans to good standing. Beyond the individual pain this can cause, it has negative consequences for the economy. In its recent spending bill, Congress passed a one-time $350 million forgiveness fund to smooth problems for some borrowers. The government has made strides over the years with income-based repayment plans, but the plans are so complicated that Mr. Chapman, our panelist from Australia, once tried to fill out applications as an experiment and couldn't do it. Democrats and Republicans share blame for a system that seems broken and major reforms don't seem near. Maybe the first step is acknowledging that possible ideas for improvement don't stop at the border. Let us know your opinion in the comment section below. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more interesting videos. Stay safe, and we will be back soon with another video.